Again, welcome to our Focus Forum. I'm Rita Riker, president of Focus, and so pleased to see so many people here. Before we get started, I want to send my heartfelt thanks to EDR for their generous sponsorship of this Focus Forum. EDR is a certified women-owned business dedicated to sustainable, multidisciplinary solutions arrived at through collaboration with clients and allies. You can read more about EDR's mission on our website, focussyracuse.org. Today, we're very pleased to welcome three individuals who are involved in addressing issues related to housing. We have representatives from Onondaga County, the city of Syracuse, and the town of Manlius. We have asked them to share how this community is preparing for the potential increase in demand for housing, including affordable housing, as Micron begins to develop new facilities in central New York. First up today is Troy Waffner, Director of Planning for the Onondaga County Department of Planning. Troy is no stranger to government. He has worked for the New York State Assembly and the Senate in various legislative and policy roles. He has also served as the director of the New York State Fair. Troy, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for hosting this. Do have a presentation I'll get up for everybody. So, the timing on this couldn't be better, right? Because, housing is certainly one of the things we're talking about on all levels of government all over. And it's an important topic. Let me first say, I grew up in central New York, so believe me, I have an adequate level of cynicism and skepticism about probably just about everything, And I say that because in central New York, we spend a lot of time as communities really planning our own funeral, whether we knew it or not. We always thought we weren't going to get anything. Nothing else was coming. But for the first time in a generation or two or three, we are planning for life and unprecedented growth in our community. So once again, this forum couldn't be more timely as we talk about housing challenges, opportunities, needs, however you look at it in the age of Micron. So much of what we do at the planning department is predicated, obviously, on the comprehensive plan. The plan Onondaga has 5 themes. These are the basis of the plan and represent what we see as big planning drivers in our communities and on a statewide basis. They're all interwoven. You can't really have one without the other and still have a great community. I mean, they all provide the essential, housing and neighborhoods, strong centers, agriculture, greenways and blueways, community mobility. Everything we've come to expect and want in our community here in Onondaga County. For this, we'll obviously focus on housing and neighborhoods and strong centers. So strong centers, what are they? Amenity rich, walkable, vibrant. They're engaging. They allow you to engage with others. They're that truly community feel. And we've had centers since the beginning of strong centers since the beginning of time. When you think about the city and the villages and the neighborhoods. Whether you're talking about the village of East Syracuse, the village of Camillus, or downtown Syracuse, you can walk to the store or park, you can live there, you have all the amenities you need in one place. They have at their heart multimodal options that are easy to navigate in public spaces and places that we invest in. And now we're starting to see that demand, in suburbia, more as more and more of these elements are created and put into developments in areas outside of the villages and cities. Because, people want to be part of a community. It's an important thing. And when you look at what we've been doing here at the Department of Planning, I mean, the county executive has certainly been investing a lot of money, literally millions of dollars in the thought process of strong centers. He's developed the hotel initiative, which he seeded with $4 million to drive investment in new hotels. We're seeing results, and those hotels are for short-term housing for workers, for families to come back, for people checking out the area, for people coming in for tourism-related aspects. He's put money into hospital and tourism to drive investment in tourism development, provide recreational outlets. And places, some of the places that have benefited are Three Rivers Athletic Complex, the Skaneateles Community Center, Elite Gaming. All these places and opportunities bring people to Central New York, more importantly, or just as importantly, provide outlets to everybody living in Central New York. We recently put forth the Onondaga County Opportunity Fund to provide low-interest loans to small businesses who may not have access to credit and capital and banks the way other businesses do. The first loan we actually just made was to Saving Face Barber Shop because they wanted to relocate and make some capital improvements. Directly into communities themselves, we have the Main Street program 279 projects were awarded over $19 million. And that $19 million generated over $34 million in private investment. And then we have the child care centers, that provide the child center grants that provide funding for capital improvements to enhance and improve the child care centers. So parents can have peace of mind that their children are safe. And then you move into kind of the housing and neighborhood section or part of the comprehensive plan. Yeah, I think we can all agree our housing dynamics are rapidly changing. They're changing at a rate that we haven't seen in decades. We need new housing. We need different housing. We need to rehab our older housing stock. We need marketable neighborhoods, and we need to address the affordability and the access issues. And while the market will ultimately decide the type of housing that people are going to buy, I think, in my opinion, what you'll see is a trend downwards in terms of size of house, smaller lots, more walkability, more of that neighborhood and community feel that everybody wants now. And that's really what it'll turn into. The developments you're seeing are really becoming more communities than just developments in the sense of 5-acre lots with a house on each one. And once again, we've to backstop some of this, encourage some development. County executive has been investing heavily in housing and neighborhood issues. We provided planning grants for the last several years to municipalities to assist them in updating their comprehensive plans and zoning regulations. This is oftentimes a lot of towns want to do it. They're 25 years old, some of these plans, they want to make the investment, but they can't necessarily come up with $150,000 that they need to really update that comprehensive plan. So we put this program out there. Around $900,000 has been sent to about 12 municipalities and villages to assist them with their comp plan updates. And it's making a real difference. The comp plan is truly the roadmap for a municipality, in terms of their development, where they want to go and what they want to be. So having those updated on a periodic basis is an important thing. The OCHIP program, which is run by Community Development and invests in multifamily housing, approximately $7 million in grant awards, is supporting over $600 million in private investment. And that's so far committed funds to build 1,707 units, 68% of which are in the city, 28% of which are affordable, and 19% which are mixed rate. And for affordability is a big part of that program. We have the Housing UTEP program, which provides pilot agreements for multifamily housing and longer agreements for those who agree to put certain percentages of affordable housing into their multifamily. We have the Northside Community Neighborhood Initiative, which is going to invest in strengthening and improving the neighborhoods on the north side, improving the connections, the walkways, just the overall neighborhoods and the feel of those neighborhoods, and then funding for infrastructure grants for developers and others. And then, in addition to all that, we've been looking at the housing market. We had Housing Onondaga Phase 1 completed in June of last year. It was an exhaustive study of the housing market, past, present, and a look into the future. And it really provided the foundation for the housing program going forward. Its findings included, as we all know, Onondaga County could grow by 24,000 households by 2040. County-wide new net households, which is interesting, will be fewer than 2 people on average. Once again, driving down the size of houses that we need. Is uncertain overall how many will be renters and owners. The number of senior renters could increase by 8,000. Inventory in Onondaga County is tight, although temporary. New construction is getting more expensive, which we see. Regulations can be an issue for timely project approval and cost escalation, and affordability is an issue, and it goes along with new construction getting more expensive. So, we wrap that up and really looked at those issues, and now we're heading into, Housing Onondaga Phase 2. It's just gotten underway. And the idea is to refresh the market math, really take a look at, even though it's only been a year, re-understanding of the market, more importantly, the development picture and development costs. And once we have all of that, we can identify the financial gaps, based on that, the estimate per unit gaps, overall gaps that developers may be finding and having a hard time filling in terms of new construction and rehab. Then we can assess the existing programs, the OCHIP programs and other programs, to see, are they doing what they're supposed to do? Are they sufficient to do what we want to accomplish and to really get to our desired outcomes? And depending on that, we can rework those programs, or we can implement new programs and really come up with a design and costs that are sized for our community and for our desired outcomes, more affordable housing. Develop different typologies of housing opportunities based on the market and development conditions. And then, partner with the municipalities. Once we have all of this information, these goals are like the rung of a ladder. The refresh the market math is the bottom of the bottom rung. Partnering with municipalities for the drivers of housing. I mean, the county has no control over local zoning, but partnering with those municipalities based on the housing needs typologies, the programs we may be able to offer on a county level, to make recommendations for policy, planning, and code adjustments going forward. And then, when you look at Micron was announced, I believe, in November of 2022 or late 2022. So where are we at right now? Almost 7,000 units are in local review. Approximately 1,300 units are under construction. Almost 2,000 units have been completed, and this includes over 300,000 square feet of commercial space and mixed-use developments. And that's escalating. We're seeing on the county planning board level. I mean, as we get closer to Micron putting the shovel in the ground officially, you're going to see this continue to grow exponentially, and the interest in developing more housing is going to grow exponentially. There is a great deal to talk about Micron. It's a wonderful thing, and what it means to the community, and what it means is a great opportunity. I mean, this is really our Erie Canal moment that's going to lift Central New York back up. And if we all work together, which we do on a normal basis, I have no doubt we'll get to where we need to do. We'll get the housing we need built, the recreational outlets we need, the greenways, blueways, everything that goes along with bringing in this influx of thousands of new people. We'll get where we need to go. And then just thank you for having me. This is wonderful.
Thank you, Troy. Appreciate it. Next up is Michelle Sabansky, Deputy Commissioner of the City of Syracuse's Neighborhood and Business Development. Michelle has worked with the city since 2016 and has worked on a range of initiatives aimed at promoting safe, affordable, and quality housing. She led the development of the city's Resurgent Neighborhood Initiative Strategy and Infill Housing Plan, and played a key role in advancing the city's strategic code enforcement effort. She has also served as a member of the board of directors of the Near West Side Initiative. Michelle?
Appreciate being here with you all today. I think the last time that I had the opportunity to present at a focus forum was very shortly after we had wrapped up the first phase of the Syracuse Housing Study back in 2023. So wanted to, it's a great opportunity today to kind of talk a little bit more about the strategy work that's been well underway for the last couple years now, and a little bit about kind of where we're at today as things are developing. So just kind of getting right into it here. As I mentioned, we've been really kind of taking a hard look over the last 2.5 years or so at kind of thinking about our comprehensive housing plans and how do we really address intentionally kind of the what we're looking at here within the city. So well before kind of the announcement of Micron, we know that we had plenty of challenges as it pertains to both our kind of market conditions as well as our housing affordability conditions in the city of Syracuse. So the way that we kind of broke out and had been approaching that work, really kind of focusing on the first phase of that, obviously the Syracuse Housing Study, looking to really establish kind of the quantitative fact-based foundation about housing needs within our community. So focus on the hard numbers, kind of checking the work along the way from neighborhood stakeholders. Second phase of the work, the Syracuse Housing Strategy really kind of took those numbers that were identified in the study portion and helped us kind of establish a framework for how we're thinking about moving forward and what are we going to do about it really. And then the third phase that we've been working on since the last fall really has been dedicated kind of small area planning within the first 4 neighborhoods where we have identified for the work to start. So kind of drilling down more granular block by block planning designed to kind of prepare us for implementation. And as I mentioned, really along the way, all of the work that we've been doing has been extremely heavily kind of guided and informed by the work of many dedicated members of various working groups and steering committees that we've had well represented kind of from all sectors that touch housing in any way, shape, or form, whether it be kind of developers, residents, housing advocates, you name it, we've had them involved in this process. As a little bit of a recap, I think the biggest thing just to keep in mind, I think what this all boils down to as far as kind of housing challenges within the city of Syracuse that are relevant as we think about kind of what housing in the face of Micron looks like. We have two kind of distinct problems that are separate but also very much related. So we have a market gap, which is kind of defined as what housing costs versus what people are willing to pay. This is really a function of kind of disinvestment and deferred maintenance that's taken place in Syracuse over decades, and the fact that kind of the cost to repair and maintain property simply does not equal out to what your likely return on investment. There's little financial incentive for people to invest in their homes here right now currently. The cost to really cure that is the cost to kind of put ourselves in a position to be able to compete regionally for households that might not choose the city. So right now, if we think about what kind of attracting a Micron workforce looks like, there's little from a just kind of straight up dollars and cents standpoint, why people might want to choose Syracuse over comparable other options kind of within the region. And that's definitely kind of a paradigm shift that has to change in order for us to make progress on that market gap. At the same time, we also have a lot of challenges as it pertains to affordability. So affordability gap kind of being defined as what housing costs versus what people can actually afford to pay. So this is really a function of kind of poverty, low income. More than half of the households that we have can't make what the estimated $1,500 a month that is needed to kind of properly build and maintain housing. And so that's a big challenge that we also have to kind of address. Obviously, both of these things have a lot of impact kind of when they're considered together, significant impact on what housing investment behaviors look like, housing conditions, and the city's fiscal capacity. And as we think about kind of what we need to do about it, we acknowledge that kind of any interventions on one side have a risk of exacerbating conditions kind of on the other side. So we know that it is going to require trade-offs. And a kind of a commitment to being smart and fair. And really the strategy is designed to kind of help us chart a roadmap for how we think about doing that. Couple kind of main principles I outlined within the core of the housing strategy. I think the first big thing is ensuring that all the work that we're doing is being guided by outcomes that are designed to cure the housing market gap and the housing affordability gap. So ensuring that property values are rising at a rate that exceeds inflation, ensuring that the kind of gap between the share that Syracuse has of moderate to higher income households is getting closer to parity with that of the county. So basically that we're decreasing and deconcentrating poverty that we have here currently. We want to see that the share of residential properties that where folks are taking kind of active investment is rising. And on the affordability side, we want to see that housing cost burdens are declining in the city, and that the percentages of residents that are living in extreme concentrated poverty, kind of defined as 30% or more of the neighborhood, that those numbers are really going down. Another kind of big piece of this is there is a lot of work that we need to acknowledge has been underway for many, many years that really should be sustained. So when we think about things like the role of the Greater Syracuse Land Bank, the work that we do with to develop new affordable housing with developers like Home Headquarters, Housing Visions, the role of code enforcement, all of those things are really important for the overall ecosystem, and that work should continue. But in addition to that, we know that there's also kind of some new additive efforts that are going to be needed in our residential neighborhoods. So obviously Syracuse is a big city. We have a lot of different housing and neighborhood issues that exist kind of across the spectrum. So the way that the strategy kind of thinks about addressing some of these problems is by breaking it out into smaller clusters. So kind of focus based on conditions. So particularly we're looking at largely residential neighborhoods that would fall into your kind of middle neighborhoods category, which are places that are very kind of average overall, but nonetheless vulnerable to decline without kind of further intervention, as well as distressed neighborhoods. So these are all of kind of our inner core downtown neighborhoods, the places that our community development dollars from HUD and the state are very well suited, or I guess those are the places where we have the most resources to them. I think arguably not always the most sole well suited tool for the problem, but nonetheless different starting place, I think. think, kind of for those neighborhoods, obviously. Want to make sure that no matter what neighborhood we're working in, that we're taking the right approach, working in the right place at the right time. So kind of tailoring work based on conditions, acknowledging the fact that neighborhoods are in different starting places, and kind of addressing strategy accordingly. Regardless of where we're working in any kind of neighborhoods, it's really important that the work be advancing in a way that kind of subscribes to a whole block, whole area mentality. I think kind of the common tendency within community development work too often, and I've been very guilty of it myself at points in time, is we try to do a little bit everywhere, and we end up spreading ourselves too thin kind of across the neighborhood, and it makes it hard to really have kind of the level of impact that you need to kind of have a tipping point and really move the needle on the scale of the problem. And so making sure that we're starting small, not spreading ourselves too thin is really critical as we move forward, no matter what we're doing. And then the last big thing is making sure that we're really being intentional about how we kind of align our systems and policies within the city. So there's a lot that goes in. I think Troy touched on this a little bit along the ideas of kind of ensuring that our comprehensive plans are tied to what our housing strategy is, are tied to just overall kind of the broader ecosystem, making sure that those things are working complementary together. Couple of things on this, just to talk a little bit more about the idea of kind of how we're looking to tailor conditions in different neighborhoods. In middle neighborhoods, I think we're really focused on kind of revitalizing and building owner confidence and willingness to invest in these neighborhoods. So looking to kind of reposition them as a first choice for young families, working adults, and create an incentive to get investments in properties above what kind of existing market would be. Make sure that we're addressing and preventing deferred maintenance and preventing displacement of existing residents. The displacement piece, we want to ensure that that's also kind of a core piece of the work that we're doing in distressed neighborhoods. It's relevant across the board, but really in distressed neighborhoods, there's additional prerequisite work that we need to do to make sure that we're stabilizing the neighborhood. We know that we have a lot of challenges when it comes to residents' kind of ability to pay. We have a lot of challenges when it comes to problematic absentee landlords. And so we really need to kind of eliminate those bad actors, make sure that we're obtaining site control of problem properties, and really growing resident capacity. So as you'll see kind of on the slides, the work that we're doing as far as kind of connecting to good neighbor efforts, trying to achieve critical mass, it becomes the same as we get down the road, but a little bit of a different kind of prerequisite starting place in those areas. In terms of kind of next steps and what we're working with, we launched in 2024 last year, the Syracuse Housing Strategies Corporation, which is a local development corporation agency of the city. So that will be kind of the primary entity that is looking to curate the work as implementation is moving forward with small area plans. While we've been doing the work, we've looked heavily at work that's been going on in other communities. Two examples of those being Invest DSM, which is based out of Des Moines, Iowa, as well as Oswego Renaissance. So both of those are cities where the same consultants that we've been working with throughout the couple years that we've been working on this process. They've done work there as well. And there's, I think, some great models there that we're looking to borrow from. I think we acknowledge that every community is different. And so what works exactly in someplace else is not necessarily going to be exactly the thing that works here, but there's certainly a lot that we can learn from these folks. And that's something that we're certainly prioritizing quite a bit. So I think I'm going to leave it there for now, and happy to answer any questions. And again, thank you all for having me.
Great. Thanks so much, Michelle. Everybody's trying to speak so fast because there's so much to tell everyone. And so I appreciate that. Next up, we have Caitlin Creasel. Caitlin is a town councilor for the town of Manlius, and she's been on the council since 2022. She's active on several town committees, including Budget and Finance, Economic Development, and Sustainable Manlius, and has served as a Planning and Development Liaison. Caitlin.
So just one correction, since 2020, I was elected in 2019. So you were
Okay.
close.
I was close, okay.
Yeah. So this is, hi everyone, my name is Caitlin Creasel. Thank you so much for the introduction. As mentioned, I chair Sustainable Manlius, our sustainability committee, and I chair Economic Development Committee, and I do sit on the Budget and Finance Committee, but that's less interesting, so I never put it on my slides. All right, let's see. All right, so I'm trying not to go over too much of the Micron stuff specifically since I knew my colleagues were going to address that. So my focus today is going to be on how the town of Manlius has been and is continuing to be a part of the solution in addressing the housing crisis that we currently have, as well as anticipating the additional housing that we'll need with Micron and additional development coming. So I'm going to focus on the work we've done, including PUDs, ADUs, senior housing, comprehensive planning, and the work we're doing to be a pro-housing community. So a bit of background, if some of you are not terribly familiar with Manlius, we are often confused with the village of Manlius, and I believe the mayor of Manlius is attending right now, so shout out to him for joining. But we do have within the town of Manlius 3 villages, Fayetteville, Manlius, and Manoa. Manlius, like so many communities in central New York, we grew up around the Erie Canal, and we are the 3rd largest suburb in of the city of Syracuse in Onondaga County. And I saw a couple different figures from the 2020 census, so I picked the biggest one, 33,712 people as of 2020. So one of the things I wanted to highlight, something that's probably assumed or pretty well known about Manlius, we are predominantly upper middle class, white community. So one of the things that we're looking at with our housing is how do we bring more diversity to the town of Manlius? How do we help to develop a community where everyone feels welcome and everyone can afford a house, and where we can create a more diverse community for the people who already live here. So that's one of the goals that we've had. And you can see here, most of our housing is owner occupied. So with the housing development work we've been doing, we're hoping to increase the number of rental units that we have or alternative forms of housing so that it's not just reliant on large single family homes. One of the pieces of data I tried to find but was unsuccessful in finding was the number of vacant bedrooms in our community. Many of our single family homes only have 1 or 2 residents, many of whom have lived in those houses for decades. So we actually have a really high vacancy rate when you consider how many bedrooms we have compared to how many people are actually utilizing that space. So why housing matters in the town of Manlius and in suburban communities. Suburban zoning has long prioritized single family housing. And as we've seen throughout the county, that's drawn people away from the city of Syracuse, contributed to suburban sprawl, increased taxes. It makes it a lot harder to get around, transportation, especially something like a train or even the busing system that we already have. Rail system, like all of those things become more challenging when you keep spreading out further and further and further. And what we've faced in the town of Manlius with a lack of diversity in housing, it has made it more difficult and more challenging for the employers out in Manlius to hire people, because a lot of the folks that they're hiring can't afford to live here. So to support our economic development, we need a diversity of housing to support the workforce, and it needs to be affordable so that we can have families that are able to afford to live here. A lot of people are not because they are priced out. So with Micron coming, how I was invited to join this panel was through the PACNY Listserv Preservation Association of Central New York. If you're not on it, I'd encourage you to get on it because there's a lot of cool people that share really cool stuff. So as a result of this article that was shared, the New York Times highlighted with the work that this New York City is doing, how major cities can't solve the housing crisis alone with just large scale development. So we're seeing that talk about what's going to need to happen in Clay, essentially building a new city in that community, in the town of Clay. But that won't be the only solution. So doing smaller scale developments throughout the region is what will help to solve that. And we know that in the town of Manlius that we're a part of the solution for Micron. And so that's what we're focused on. We don't really have the space to do huge, large scale developments without contributing even more to sprawl and heading out towards Madison County, which we're not interested in doing. So we're looking at more smaller developments, infill developments surrounding the villages and throughout the town. So as I mentioned, there's 3 things I'm going to highlight today. Our planned unit development law, accessory dwelling units, and senior housing, 3 things that we've got going on already. So in 2023, we passed our PUD law. That's a planned unit development. And some of you might be familiar with this. This was somewhat new to me when it came up. We passed a local law that allows us to create a custom zone. It works a lot like an overlay district, and this allows us to customize a project and customize a zone to allow for that project. Every PUD that comes to us is actually called a district plan. And I'm going to talk about 2 today that we have ongoing. So if we had left it up to the original zone, it wouldn't have been able to be as dense with our zoning. And we weren't interested in changing the zone because we wanted to preserve the integrity of that for the rest of the town. So by passing the PUD law and then passing the district plans, we were able to allow these custom projects to go forward. Every district plan is approved by the town board, and that is done by local law. So it's effectively changing the zone of that parcel or that property. So this is our biggest project so far, and our first PUD, our first district plan, is Twin Ponds. So we went through this whole process, passing the PUD law in 2023 with this project in mind. And so Twin Ponds, we worked on this all of 2024 and passed it in September. And it's currently in front of the planning board going through the site plan review process. So it's going to be 310 apartments in 3 5-story buildings off North Burdick Street. If you're familiar with the town of Manlius, it's just across really from Target and Kohl's, heading up towards the medical center. It will also include 3,500 square feet of commercial space, which was one of the things I advocated for. It's also going to be a fossil fuel free project. And one of the things that we mandated that they do was include some type of affordable housing. So there will be 25 to 30 workforce housing units. And to qualify for that, you have to have annual income at 80% of the median area income. We also passed last year a local law for accessory dwelling units, or ADUs. The city of Syracuse, I believe, is the only other community in Onondaga County that has one, has an ADU law, but I could be wrong about that. So we did pass this local law in 2024. It would allow for a property owner to build a separate building on their property that they could have their relative live in, or a caretaker for someone that lives in their house, an elderly parent. So it will allow for people to move into the community without needing to buy a house or rent. They can tag on with their family member. So this will make things more flexible for folks who have varying needs, and will also increase the housing stock without contributing to sprawl or needing to develop larger apartment complexes. So we passed the local law in 2024, but as of right now, we still don't have any. And I believe that's the same for the city of Syracuse. So with our law, we're only allowing it on R1, R3, and R4. So we're not allowing it in restricted agricultural, which a lot of the people who've come in and have interest, they live in RA, they live in restricted agricultural. So that's caused some confusion, and that's prevented some people from moving forward, either confusion about whether or not they qualify, or not being allowed to qualify depending on the zone that they live in. Currently, a site plan is required, and that requires hiring and paying for a designer or an architect. That adds to the complexity and the cost, and has not necessarily turned people away, but they've been reluctant to move forward, realizing that they can't just build it. There's going to be a whole planning board review process. And the planning board review process can also be intimidating, having to go before the planning board and review the site plan, and it can be several meetings long. No one has gotten to that point, and we'll be working with our planning board to hopefully resolve that issue before it becomes an issue, to allow for these types of projects to move forward. And I highlighted here, you can see where R1, R2, and R4 exist in the town. And then you can also see how much of the town is restricted agricultural. So we wanted to take baby steps. So we wanted to dip our toe in, see how this would work. So we're not saying no to restricted agricultural. We're just saying not yet until we kind of see how this works. The only neighborhood that we really didn't allow for it in is Homewood. And that would be R3 because they are, or I believe R5 actually, and it's too dense. So there was some interest from folks in that neighborhood, but the houses are too close together and the lots are too small. So we couldn't allow it there. And then senior housing, this is something that I'm assuming a lot of us are very familiar with. To relieve the pressure on housing in the town of Manlius, where we've got a lot of retired folks or older folks in houses that maybe are not suitable for them anymore. A lot of them might wish to move out. Some of them surely would prefer to stay in the homes that they've had for that long, but many of them wish that they could leave, but they have nowhere to go. They want to stay in Fayetteville, they want to stay in Manlius, they want to stay in Manoa, they want to stay within the town, but there's nowhere that they can move into. So by developing senior housing, not only is this better for those folks, but it is also better for the housing market because families can now move into those vacant properties. And so it's supporting the aging community, and it will help to move the people out of their homes that are interested in doing so. So this is another district plan, so another element of our PUD law, Garden Park Senior Apartments, and that is right off of Highbridge Street heading into the village of Fayetteville. And it's right next to, you can see Brookdale, which is a memory care facility. And so this will allow people who want to live close to their spouse or their relative that they're able to do so. So it's really going to be a great project, and I think really supporting not only the folks that want to move out of their houses, but also the people who want to live near their family members who are living in the memory care facility.
Caitlin, this is your nudge.
Okay, thank you. I'm wrapping up ish.
Okay.
Faster. So this is another project that we've got. 80 apartments have been proposed right near the medical center. So this would allow, oh, this is still the Highbridge Road project. I'm sorry. So this is just a pretty picture of it. So I can blow past this one. This is Peregrine Assisted Living. This is going to be right next to the medical center. I believe it's 68 units. So this again will help to support the senior housing and aging in place. And then last two pieces here, I was told once that the most aggressive thing a town can do is to write a comprehensive plan. And we ran on that in 2019, my colleagues and I, and we were able to get that project done in 2023. So that's what helped us to know we had to do all of this work, that people were interested in senior housing, that they were open to ADUs, that more apartments were needed. So this isn't just arbitrary. This was all informed by the community and the needs that were identified through the comprehensive planning process. And then finally, the town of Manlius is a certified pro-housing community. So this not only allows us to qualify for the Main Street and New York Forward grants, we're too small to qualify for the DRI, but it also helps to inform the state on the work that we're doing and helps to keep us moving forward, developing housing in the town of Manlius. So here's some information if you'd like to reach me. My email, kcreasel@townofmanlius.org. And I'm also on social media, so please feel free to follow me on Facebook and Instagram and connect with me on LinkedIn.
Great.
That's all for me.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you.
As I said, you each have so much to share, and we appreciate that. So
I think I did okay.
now I'm going to turn it over to Brian Hoke, an emeritus board member of Focus, and he's going to sort of lead us in some question and answers.
Thanks, Rita, and thanks to our panelists. I'm sure I'm not alone in those listening today. Great to hear from y'all, what you have to say and what you've been doing. We had questions submitted in advance. It's unlikely, given the short amount of time we have, that we'll get to many that you all put in the chat here, but I'll start with a few questions that came up related to transportation and I-81. Obviously, I-81, another huge marker, a huge change coming up for our community, in addition, alongside Micron. And people like Mary Beth asked that you state something about traffic. Stanley asked about what will happen, if it will be replaced, those public housing units that I-81 gets rid of. But I'm wondering if you all might say, and some of you touched on it in your remarks, how does I-81 or traffic in general relate to planning, to the housing challenges and opportunities? Does it mean those areas closer to Micron have a different feel or approached differently? But I wonder if each of you might comment on I-81 and transportation in broader scope. Anybody want to go first? Troy, you're unmuted. Can I start with you, sir?
Well, there's going to be traffic, that much we know, right? You know, I think obviously when we do design, when we approve projects, when we look at projects, one of the biggest questions is what are the effects on traffic? Is there an updated traffic study? What are we going to do in terms of intersections and roadways and everything? And all of that's being planned. I mean, the Route 31 corridor is certainly going to become more busy. You know, we're working with SMTC on a Route 31 corridor study that looks at everything from rail to bus rapid transit to just increasing the bus traffic up there. But part of that is also, which Caitlin kind of touched on, it's looking at the densities of housing for each of those. To support rail, you have to have an enormous density of housing. And then working back from there, I believe the DOT is undertaken a huge study of Route 31. And I'm sure how it ties into 81, because 31 is going to become a traffic, more of a traffic throughway than it is now. But you know, people get nervous about, and I grew up in Syracuse, you know, it's a 10-minute town. People get nervous about traffic once in a while. I mean, traffic's not a bad thing if it's correctly managed. And bringing people in is certainly going to increase the number of cars, but hopefully it also expands Centro's ability to provide service to more areas throughout the county.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you. Michelle or Caitlin, thoughts on this topic? You don't have to, but please.
I would touch a little bit just on the housing components of it, particularly kind of the East Adams neighborhood transportation or transformation plan. Obviously, the removal of the I-81 viaduct through the heart of Syracuse downtown is also an unprecedented opportunity kind of in and of itself. We are taking a lot of intentional efforts. My colleagues, Joe Driscoll, the I-81 director, as well as Sarah Walton, who's our East Adams neighborhood director, really to try to kind of coordinate the two. Obviously, they're separate and distinct projects, but nonetheless present kind of a lot of challenges and opportunities. As far as kind of the housing unit pieces, I heard a piece of the question that was what's going to happen to the public housing. There is going to be a one-to-one replacement. So all residents who are in good standing in those homes currently have the right to return once the work is completed. And we're also taking a lot of intentional efforts to really kind of focus on deconcentrating poverty, kind of using the purpose-built communities model. So adding density above and beyond kind of the existing number of housing units to be able to help accomplish both of those things. So.
Gotcha. Thanks.
And I'll just
Caitlin, please
comment, because we're obviously a little bit removed from the part of the project, and I will say that I've been obsessed with the 81 project for decades, and that was what led to me going to school for political science and getting involved in local government. So it's truly a dream come true to see it coming down. I'm a huge nerd for that project for a long time. But the town of Manlius and the suburban communities, especially on the east side with 481 now going to become 81, we're going to be affected by the increase in traffic on our side of town, and especially as we increase the population. So to that point, developing communities where people can walk. I was a part of the traffic study that occurred in the village of Manlius because I was a resident there at the time and representing the town. And what they found was that most of the people that contributed to the traffic in the village of Manlius were people who live in the village of Manlius. So if we create dense housing and we focus on that and creating walkable communities and bikeable communities, complete streets, then we would reduce traffic. So any new development in the whole county should be focused on making those communities walkable rather than just sprawl with giant big roads that no one would ever walk down, or at least not safely. So I'm hoping that that's what we'll see in other parts of the county, and that's what we're focused on in Manlius.
Great. Thank you all. We had quite a few questions that fit into the planning category, right? Obviously, sort of the substance of what you all have been talking about. They came at it from different sides, but I guess I would sort of squash them together in asking, do the larger macroeconomic forces of tariffs and inflation and building costs and all those things, as opposed to the levers that you all pull on when it comes to planning. Is it the case that right-sized planning, smart, creative, thoughtful, appropriate for us as Central New Yorkers, whether it's city, county, or Manlius, how much do those go together or work apart? Like, can truly great planning get through any other of those challenges of, boy, building costs are really going up, or Michelle, you talked about the gap between maintaining properties and that. Just as a civilian, right? You all are experts. I don't know for a fact, but how much can your work address unprecedented, right? Generational sort of challenges with the larger world economy and how it relates to us. I'm perhaps phrasing this question poorly, but I wonder if you might comment on, yeah, if we get this right, we can really make a difference. Or, boy, those other larger forces impact so much about how people build houses, sell houses, rent houses, find houses, construct houses differently. And again, if you can muddle through my poorly worded question, I'm just curious if y'all might say anything about the planning work in the face of external forces and how it's going.
Brian, I'd be happy to take the lead on this one.
Please.
My day job, I'm a financial advisor, so I've been closely watching the stock market, and it's been a fun ride for all of us. But as we saw during the pandemic, with the increase in inflation and the inflationary pressures on all of the materials that one would need to build, the costs were skyrocketing. We all experienced that.
Mhm.
But also what was increasing considerably was building and development. And with Micron coming to Central New York, this is a good play for anyone that's interested in developing real estate. This is one of the fastest growing communities in the country. The more people are moving to Central New York, and we're at least in the top 5. And I think Rochester and Buffalo were the other 2, just coming out of the pandemic. So there are a lot of communities across the country who will or have a higher risk of falling victim to or having to deal with the negatives coming from the economy and from the Trump policies. But I think that there are many people who are very bullish on our community. So I think if I were to answer your question directly, I would say I have the opposite concern, that there's going to be so much growth in Manlius and so much growth in the county and in the region, and along the I-90 corridor, that we have to be doing smart planning so that sprawl doesn't happen. We have to be preparing for so much investment, which maybe is not something we're accustomed to.
That's great. I mean, that's heartened. I find that heartening as a person who cares about this community, who's lived here for 30 years. I was hoping you were going to say, yeah, we're working hard, but there's very little we can do because the deck is just stacked against us. So thank you for that. Troy or Michelle, would you like to come in on this topic? Either of you?
I think the only thing I would add is obviously there's always going to be external forces and extenuating factors that are going to affect our ability to do something. And so certainly increased tariffs, that increases the lumber prices, that has an effect on costs to build housing. But the reality is that can't be the thing that holds us back from doing anything. We can't be complacent. The stakes are too high for us to continue kind of doing the same thing and expect different results. So I remain as optimistic as Caitlin, I think, for that. I think we have the opportunity to kind of think differently about it and within kind of the bounds of our controllables. So we certainly have to acknowledge what's happening, but it can't be the thing that holds us back.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I
Troy?
mean, to answer part of your question is, can you do good planning extenuating on external forces? And the answer is yes. You can always do good planning on no matter what the forces are. And there is great interest in this community from developers, certainly locally. You're going to start seeing it on the regional level. And as the building of Micron comes into fruition, you are going to see a stampede of people wanting to come in and work with property owners, develop property, rehab property. So we're in a good position to be in.
Great. We have time perhaps for just one more question. We had a question from, let me see, David, who asked, how can we, assuming David is a realtor, how can we as realtors help out with the housing challenges that Micron will bring, or conversely, opportunities? Wonder if you all might comment on how the real estate industry, realtors specifically, might play a part in this if you had your druthers.
I don't
Anybody?
know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's a good question, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Michelle
Yeah.
or Troy? You don't have to,
Real-
but if you get them.
Realtors, like developers, are on the front lines of talking to people about what they want, right? You know, do they,
Mhm.
and I think the days of 5-acre lots with single family homes on them are hopefully coming to an end. So it's really, what are the young people moving? What are younger people looking for when they come in? And how do we develop the infill developments and do a better job of really marketing what the market wants in terms of the people coming here, as opposed to what we think everybody wants. And that's really where realtors can play the best part, is they're on the front lines of talking to everybody.
Gotcha.
I would say show your
Michelle, go ahead,
clients
please.
neighborhoods in Syracuse. We've got a lot of great ones. So
Well said. Great. Well, I know we're just about out of time. Rita, I will turn it back over to you.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Troy, Michelle, Caitlin. This has been a wonderful sharing, and we really appreciate you sharing with us today. By the way, we've seen in the chat many requests for your slides. If you're comfortable sending them to us, we can certainly post them on our website together with the video of this session. So we'll work with you on that if that is of something that you're willing to do, but lots of interest in those slides.
I did answer someone's question in the chat. So there was a question about ADUs. I did drop
Yeah.
that.
Okay, great. Okay, so as I mentioned with all of our other forums, we'll be posting the forum on our website shortly. That website is focussyracuse.org. Another big thank you to EDR for their sponsorship of this forum. We're happy to speak with others who might be interested in sponsoring one or more forums. So please let us know. And you'll also find on our website an easy way to donate to Focus. A donation of any amount is always greatly appreciated. Thanks to everybody, and have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend, and take care.